Hello, this is News Pulse on UATV. I am Henry Keane. Thank you for joining. Today in the episode, 4 million units annually, Ukraine emerges as a global leader in drone production, 77,000 Russian targets hit in October alone. Weapon aid is being provided to Ukraine and more countries are moving away from Russian oil while Russian refineries are burning. Donald Trump envisions a US victory day to rival Russia's, but let's see who are them, real Russian soldiers in Ukraine. Ukraine is becoming a global hub, no less, for combat drone production. Bloomberg reports on that. Ukrainian enterprises are currently producing about 4 million drones annually. Such a result has been reachable thanks to flexibility, speed, and constant innovation. For comparison, in the United States, this figure is around 100,000 aircraft annually. The growth in production is driven by the need to respond quickly to Russian aggression and by demand from NATO countries, of course. Ukrainian companies are not only supplying the front lines, but are also preparing to enter international markets. Ukrainian drone manufacturers have already opened facilities in Slovakia and are preparing new ones, particularly in Denmark. And Denmark has announced the 28th package of military aid to Ukraine worth more than $210 million. The new package includes additional funds for the implementation of the Danish model of weapons production in Ukraine. About $57 million will go to the Pearl initiative, the purchase of American weapons for Ukraine. More than $12 million will be allocated for fuel purchased through the NATO Support and Procurement Agency. The German company Helsing continues to improve its counterpart to Russia's Lancer, the HX-2, according to Defense Express. These drones are already being delivered to Ukraine in significant numbers. Analysts have reported that Ukraine has placed 2 orders for a total of 10,000 HX-2 drones. The company plans to ramp up production to 1,500 units of HX-2 per month. The drones have likely performed quite well in Ukraine as during recent tests in Germany. Out of similar drones from manufacturers, only the HX-2 alone from Helsing successfully hit the designated target for it. Sweden is receiving valuable feedback from Ukraine on its weapons tested in real combat conditions. Defense Minister Paul Johnson told LRT that this has highlighted the need to adjust Sweden's defense strategies. He also stressed that Russia's slow progress in eastern Ukraine comes at a huge cost, and with a collapsing economy, does not mean in any way that Putin is winning this war. Around 77,000 Russian targets were struck by the Ukrainian Armed Forces UAV systems in October alone, reported Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, Alexander Syrsky. According to him, this is the result of expanding the quantity and quality of UAV units. That is the only reason why the number of enemy targets destroyed continues to grow. The best combat performance was demonstrated by FPV drones and heavy bombers. Syrsky added that according to the intelligence data, the Russian army is adopting Ukrainian tactics and investing significantly in resources in this effort. Therefore, the defense forces must continuously improve, not only to gain, but also to maintain their technological advantage. Ukrainian defense forces have struck the Orsk-Nefteorg oil refinery in the Orenburg region in Russia, according to a report from the Ukrainian General Staff. The drones of domestic Ukrainian production called Lyuty. The word Lyuty has 2 connotations in English: February and Fury. These drones were used. The military emphasized that the strikes was part of the effort to reduce the enemy's offensive capabilities as well as complicate the supply of fuel and ammunition to Russian troops. It is known that the refinery produces more than 30 types of petroleum products, including gasoline, diesel, aviation, kerosene, and oils. The refinery has a production capacity of over 6 million tons of oil per year. Following the attack, several explosions occurred and a fire broke out at the facility. One of the primary oil processing units was also severely damaged. Ukraine's 14th Regiment carried out a successful drone strike on the marine oil terminal in occupied Feodosia, Crimea. According to reports, FP2 fire-point drones hit two large fuel storage tanks, triggering powerful blasts and fires at the facility. The terminal is considered to be one of the key logistical hubs for supplying fuel and lubricants by sea to the Crimean Peninsula and the temporarily occupied territories of southern Ukraine. The terminal plays a crucial role in supporting Russian military operations in the region, serving as a transit point for fuel deliveries to frontline units. Preliminary data indicate that the strike caused serious damage to the infrastructure of the terminal, seriously disrupting its operation. In the Russian city of Ulyanovsk and several nearby towns, mobile internet has been shut down completely until the war against Ukraine ends, says Nova Gazeta Europe, citing Oleg Yakfarov, the region's Minister of Digital Development, so-called. The restrictions also affect some residential areas, social institutions and office buildings.
Last week, before the start of the extended shutdown, the Federal Center decided to expand the security zones around such facilities, and these are permanent restrictions, not temporary measures for the period of an attack. It is important to understand that regional authorities cannot influence or cancel this decision, as it is related to matters of state security. Oleg Yakfarov, Minister of Digital Development of the Ulyanovsk region, Russia.
And after the US imposed new sanctions on Rosneft and LUKOIL, the global energy landscape changing quite rapidly. The effects are being felt not only in Russia, but also in Asia, the Middle East, and even Europe. According to Reuters and Bloomberg, tens of millions of barrels of Russian oil are stuck at sea, turning into literally a floating storage. By early November, the volume of unsold oil reached 380 million barrels, the highest level since the beginning of Russian invasion of Ukraine. India, once the largest buyer of Russian Urals oil, has effectively stopped its purchases. 5 of its refineries have completely cancelled their contracts. Major Chinese company Sinopec and PetroChina have also suspended imports, fearing secondary American sanctions. Brazil is reducing its dependence on Russian diesel fuel just as well. According to official data, since the beginning of 2023, the country has paid over $13.5 billion to Russia for diesel fuel. However, Russia's share in Brazil's diesel imports has now dropped, and significantly. While it accounted for 60% in the first half of the year, by October it had plummeted to just 17%. Experts attribute this decline to the rising cost of the shadow fleet due to sanctions, as well as diesel shortage in Russia itself caused by refinery shutdowns. Indian oil refineries have already begun negotiations with companies from Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates for supplies, obviously to replace Russian oil, which has been hit by US sanctions hard, says Bloomberg. The talks took place last week. Middle Eastern producers confirmed their readiness to guarantee the deliveries. After the sanctions were imposed on Rosneft and LUKOIL, the 5 largest refineries in India completely suspended purchasing Russian oil. Currently, only 2 companies are still buying it, and one of them even deals exclusively with Russian supplies. Chinese oil refinery Yangsheng Petroleum has excluded Russian oil from its latest tender for crude supplies from December to mid-February, according to Reuters. The refinery previously purchased regular shipments of ISPO and Sokol crude oils, but has now halted imports from Russia due to concerns over secondary sanctions from the US and the West. The refinery has a capacity of 348,000 barrels per day and an annual import quota of about 26 million barrels. Meanwhile, the United States has urged Turkey to halt its purchases of Russian energy, according to press releases from the United States Department following meeting between Senator Marco Rubio and Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan. Washington emphasized its support for President Trump's call for all NATO allies to stop importing Russian oil and gas in order to help end the war in Ukraine. Turkey ranks 3rd amongst the largest buyers of Russian oil, after China and India importing around 300,000 barrels per day. In addition, the country receives about 22 billion cubic meters of gas annually through the Blue Stream and Turkish Stream pipelines, making it Gazprom's second largest customer after China. President Donald Trump would love to have a victory day in the United States, as well as France, UK and Russia.
And I said, from now on, we're going to say Victory Day for World War I and World War II. And we could do for plenty of other wars, but we'll start with those two. Maybe someday somebody else will add a couple of more because we won a lot of good ones. But when I see other countries celebrating Victory Day, I watched it. I watched UK, I watched Russia. They were celebrating Victory Day, World War II. And I said, we got to have a Victory Day.
Well, maybe it is Donald Trump's plan, after all, to throw a parade in the United States, to invite Putin there, to make him walk the red carpet, just as he did in Alaska, and carpe diem, voila, seizing the opportunity while celebrating the end of the war together with Russia to end another war in Ukraine that Russia has started. Maybe, or maybe not. But meanwhile, in Ukraine, Ukrainian armed forces keep on proving that military parades and actual combats are two very, very different things.
If someone happens to see this video, I really hope, well, honestly, I don't really know what to do or how to react right now. The radio died, no connection, nothing while it lasted. No food, no water, absolutely nothing at all. Fifth command. We have been left here with no supplies, no support, and no hope. So many corpses along the way. My legs up, either a drop or a BB shell. I don't know. It's probably been a week already. I'm so damn hungry. There are a lot of corpses, a whole lot. The leaves have fallen, there's nowhere to hide. I don't know where to go. No village. I don't see anything anywhere around me. There are no signs of life, no people, no buildings, nothing at all in sight. No berries, nothing at all to gather or eat. The area is completely empty and silent. Where do I run? How do I hide? I feel lost and exposed. I hope I survive, damn it.
Putin does not use internet at all. He uses paper reports. Reports about Burevestnik, Oreshnik, Poseidon, all nuclear capable, all super powerful, and all can reach any target anywhere on the planet. There is nowhere to hide from these. Most literally no space left on that paper report that Putin is reading. And all paper reports Putin reads are victorious, of course. Whether at sea, on the land, or in the air, Russian armies, according to those paper reports, a swimming, a walking, or flying tiger, just same as those reports, a paper one. And when it comes to AI and robotic systems, same. No one can beat Russia on paper. The New Technology Coalition created an AI robot named Aizor that can operate completely offline and can even express emotions. Well, it surely can evoke emotions, that I must admit. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban has once again stated that the Russia's-US summit in Budapest remains on the agenda, and it will take place, but later. What is delayed will still happen, just not when we want, but a little later, Orban said, and he notes that 22% of the Donetsk region in Ukraine is not under Russian occupation. And Russia, after introducing the annexation of these 4 regions of Ukraine into its own Russian constitution, does not want to make peace until it completely seizes them, says Orban. Orban also states that he saw the documents of the agreement concluded in Istanbul in April 2022 and claims that it was close to success, but in the end, we quote the Prime Minister, the Anglo-Saxons disrupted it. Well, that seems to be it for today. I'm Henry Keane. Thank you so very much, dear Anglo-Saxons and all others who stand for Ukraine family. Please subscribe to our channel so to stay tuned to what is happening in the world, presented to you by us, UATV, in Ukrainian perspective, of course. Goodbye.